People want something from me.
What?
Because the other one was talking about my eBay page.
So, let me know if you get this. You're 12 years old, you finally go to that robot movie all your friends are talking about.
What are you, like an alien or something?
And not long after the movie starts, you're in the middle of an action scene and you suddenly realize that you have no idea what's happening on screen. And more than a fight between giant robots, it feels like you're watching a video of washing machines self-destructing. But sometime later, you hear about another live-action robot movie. If Michael Bay's robots fight other robots, these ones fight monsters. If Bay's robots are big, these ones are gigantic. And if the others destroy everything in their path, these do too. And you can't help but compare them, because after all, they have a lot in common, right?
Not at all, because the design is entirely different, the scale is entirely different. I love Transformers, my daughters love Transformers. I think that the aesthetic the director brings to each movie is completely different.
The truth is, there are many differences, but one of the things you appreciate the most is that you can actually follow the action. But why? Yep, that's his name on his shoe.
Look at us, man. Superman. Come on!
I think one of the main problems with Michael Bay's scenes is the same thing that makes his best movie, Pain and Gain, so good. The excesses. Good action movies know when to slow things down, whether it's to give us a break, build anticipation, or create tension. And they obviously know when to speed things back up.
Oh my God!
The problem with Bay's action scenes is that they suffer from extreme dynamism, which, contrary to what you might think, an excess of dynamism can lead to a lack of rhythm. In his action scenes, when one explosion ends, another one starts, and then another, and another. By the time the 10th building goes down, it's not even impressive or surprising anymore, and you just wish the next one would fall on your head already. The problem is that Bay never wants to slow down. And that makes the action so uncomfortable.
I never did have very good timing.
Take, for example, this scene from Ambulance, his latest movie. It's not just that the camera shakes all over the place. It's a scene where the action itself is invisible. What takes center stage is the editing. It's impossible to tell what's happening or to build a spatial understanding of the scene in your head.
Action editing and action filming now is more about either the director doesn't know what he's doing, so you're going to shoot it from everywhere, and because you didn't practice or rehearse, there's no energy or it's not good enough to see wide, so you try to shake the camera around to infuse energy that wasn't in the choreography to begin with, or you try to hide something because your cast member didn't have the training.
And this is something the director of John Wick,
Hi, I'm Chad Stahelski. I'm the director of the John Wick franchise.
one of the best stunt coordinators out there, calls hiding the action, which is common in most action scenes nowadays, because it's easier and cheaper than training the actors. I think the point is clear, but just in case, check out this scene from 6 Underground.
Hey.
Another Michael Bay's film. In just 10 seconds, there are 16 different shots, and in none of them are you actually seeing the action. Instead, the editor's skills take all the spotlight. And this flaw is constantly repeated throughout the film. But actually, this problem gets even worse if you don't have humans in your action scene. Because, you see, even in those scenes with 1,000 cuts per second, at least you can identify the parts of a human body. The thing is, each Transformer has countless pieces in its 3D design.
Optimus Prime had 10,100 parts, 108 parts that had to all move and interact, so they're the most complicated physical models they've ever made because they had to work. It's an amazing amount of animation time it took.
And if you add Bay's direction to the mix, along with not being familiar with the 3D designs, the scenes end up looking like two metallic blobs rubbing against each other, making it impossible to tell which part belongs to whom. If only they had identifiable colors, it would be so much easier. It's a common technique in action. something that Transformers only really grasped in the 4th movie, where colors started to serve the action a bit better. But it's not helpful when most of their body is silver, or when they're fighting against another character with similar textures or even similar colors, because these aren't human bodies with recognizable shapes. They're large masses of metal with uniform textures blending together. Again, it's like watching washing machines breaking down. And maybe I'm making a big deal out of this, but I started this video talking about Pacific Rim because I think it succeeds where Bay's weaknesses lie. If you look at its designs, they're much simpler, easily reduced to an identifiable silhouette. That's why they can handle scenes with a lot of visual information, like rain, buildings, or colored lights, without overwhelming your eyes, making them visually enjoyable. You can even see this intention to keep it simple in how they start their action scenes. And I want to dissect this scene because I think it gets everything right that Michael Bay doesn't. But first, I want to tell you something. And I put together this 3D scene just to do it, so listen up, because what you're about to see isn't a transformer or some weird monster. It's a laptop with private internet access. The most transparent VPN in the world with over 30 million downloads and the sponsor of this video. If you're not sure what a VPN is, let me put it this way. When I made my Breaking Bad video, I recommended one of my favorite series, Ocupus, a kind of Argentine Breaking Bad, but a bunch of people told me it wasn't available in their countries. With this VPN, you can change your location and access the catalog of any country you want. But this app not only gives you more content, but also better security. Whenever you're online on an unprotected device, like your phone, computer, tablet, or console, you're sending out a ton of information that can be seen by all sorts of people before it gets to the website you want. The good news is that with just one private internet access account, you can protect all of your devices at once, because this VPN hides your IP address and safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. And the cool part is, if you use the link in the description, you'll get an 83% discount with a 30-day money-back guarantee, and 4 months free. All that for just $2.03. So if it sounds good to you, give it a try. Big thanks to Private Internet Access for sponsoring this video. Now, let's return to the sequence, which I love how it starts. And I like it because right from the first shot, the camera starts low on the ground, giving us a human perspective that helps us grasp the scale and proportions of these creatures, especially with two elements. One close to the camera, the ship, and others in the distance, the buildings. In the second shot, it introduces the protagonist robot head-on, constructing the space from a different perspective. From here, we begin the scene knowing where we stand. We've got the main robot, the monster, the setting introduction, and fundamentally the action axis between them. All of that in just 7 seconds. And here is another essential difference between these two directors. You see, Bay plays his cards mainly on external montage, that is, the editing, while the scenes in Pacific Rim focus on the internal montage of the shot. On all the movements and rhythms that happen within the frame. Take, for example, the shot following the robot's fall. This one. Here you have elements in the foreground, background elements, and 2 elements in the midground. On one side, there's the car that grabs your attention with its sound and lights, and on the other, the robot that stands out because, well, it's a robot. Of course, it's a chaotic shot, but with a certain order and logic. If you notice, the camera, it's positioned in the middle of the street at its human eye level, giving us a sense of the scale of these creatures. And this is reinforced in the next movement, when both elements interact, with the robot's arm crushing the car. Again, it's an everyday object that gives us a notion of the robot's scale and strength. Finally, the shot ends with a messy zoom that emphasizes the most relevant element of the scene, the monster. Moreover, it grounds the situation a bit because the angle and zoom make it look like a reporter's camera. And the same thing happens in this shot. With the truck being crushed and the upward camera movement, followed by a roar and the thunderclock that make us feel in the presence of a god. Which again, we see from below. In these two shots of Pacific Rim, we have a choreography within the chaos with a beginning, middle, and end. The camera isn't always aiming for the most spectacular shot, but one that stays true to a single viewpoint, which, in this case, is the human perspective. But this doesn't mean that the direction is limited to low-angle shots. Take this shot, for example. It's a perspective you can relate to a bit more, because it's similar to what you might see from a balcony or window. What also happens at this moment is a certain tension is created by the rhythms. Let me explain. The robot has just been sent flying after a beatdown and doesn't know where the giant monster is. And that's where the tension builds, because something that happens in good action scenes is that the moments without physical contact are just as impactful as the ones with it. In fact, they make the contact moments even more impactful. That's why it gives the audience moments to breathe. Sometimes, even with a little visual joke, and it does this more than once. Whether it's to show the effects of acid jetting onto a building or a cruise ship being tossed through the air. Of course, we're entering subjective territory here, because there is no doubt that Pacific Rim is packed with intensely vibrant shots featuring neon lights and fast movements.
Altitude actuation. Off balance.
That might overwhelm a 70s cinema goer due to their dynamism. But I believe the key difference in direction between one film and another lies in the harmony within chaos, that almost magical ability to master the fire. I think this is what ultimately prevents Bay's action sequences from being truly memorable. I mean, he has 4 movies in the franchise, and I struggle to recall any standout scenes from them. And I mention this because when I think of great action movies, there's always a specific action scene that comes to mind. In fact, that was the genesis of this video. I thought of Pacific Rim, and I thought of this scene and how all the elements came together so well. So the next time you watch an action movie, perhaps you can ask yourself if what impresses you is a visual shock that overwhelms your senses, or if you're experiencing a genuine aesthetic journey.